It took 500 tries, but we finally beat Blueprints' hardest challenge, and no, it's not day one curse mode, although we did beat that, and it made me kind of cocky. I thought there was no way anything could be harder, but no, I was wrong. Over 35 hours later, we have finally beaten day one dare mode, and I'm going to break down for you exactly why this is a nightmare. So, day one is already a very difficult challenge in Blueprints. So many comments and questions are always asking about it, and for good reason. It's not the easiest thing to pull off. I do have a great in-depth guide talking about all the ways to beat it after the patch that made it just a little bit easier. But even still, I would wager that a very skilled Blueprints player can probably beat day one about 1/4 of the seeds that are presented to them. So yeah, there is a lot of RNG involved. And then there's the very stressful component of, are my choices actually helping me beat this? Do I have a viable chance to victory? Not always. Sometimes you do, and sometimes you botch it, which is very frustrating. Dare mode is even worse. Dare mode is an optional challenge that you can unlock through the Mount Holly gift shop. You do have to beat the game once, which I've assumed you've done if you're watching this video. Spoilers if you haven't. Basically, there's a huge list of potential dares that the game gives you, and your day will immediately end if you fail any of them. You start the game off with one dare, and then each day a new one gets added until you have 4 dares total. And that's important because you need at least 4 dares to actually open up room 46. That's just baked into the challenge of dare mode itself. If that's the case, how does one beat dare mode in day one? Well, there's a special laboratory experiment that's only available in dare mode. It's an effect that adds an extra dare, which by the way, can also make you go beyond your cap of 4 up to a total of 8 dares, which I have done. In day one dare mode, we need to draft the laboratory. We need to draft the effect that says add a dare to your list, and we need to have a good enough cause to actually make that possible. Do you understand how difficult it already is to get a winning day one challenge? Then factor that with this necessity. Consider this for a second. I've had many runs where I had the antechamber open, plenty of steps and resources, but I never found a laboratory. Or if I found a laboratory, it was facing the wrong direction and I have to put it off for later and hope that I'll find it again. Then there's the frustration of drafting the laboratory, looking at the dares and seeing you don't have the add a dare option. Or sometimes you see it, but the causes are so awful and janky, there's no way you can pull it off. Let's rank the laboratory dare experiments from easiest to hardest. The easiest by far is each time you unlock or bypass a security door. That's something you already want to be doing because you're already using utility closet to open up the garage, to get the tomb, blah, blah, blah. And you're saving so many keys that it's an amazing thing to pull off. The awkward thing is this is maybe too good of an experiment because you can absolutely go beyond the 4 dares and start entering the realm of 5 or 6. Really awkward because so many dares will automatically kill you. Fortunately, you can shut off the laboratory experiment by going to any terminal. It doesn't even just have to be the laboratory itself. However, that is a lot of backtracking and steps, which can be really frustrating. I had a very close to winning run where I had everything. I had 4 great dares, a route to the antechamber, and everything ready to go, except for my step game, which was not perfect. Backtracking to turn off the laboratory experiment once I reached 4 cost me about 18 steps, which did kill my run. The next best one is for each bedroom you draft after the second. The cool thing about this one is that bunk room does count for 2 triggers. Another great thing about this dare is that bedroom and boudoir are bedrooms that continue moving for paths, so you don't have to rely on every dead end of all time. In fact, this laboratory experiment and the nursery are reasons why I like to hold those off until later in the day. Not to mention, bedroom and boudoir are already better on day one. The bedroom is guaranteed to have a locked trunk for you to open up, and boudoir with your V mode luck makes you just a little bit more likely to get something cool like coins or a sleeping mask inside of it. The next best experiment is each time you eat an apple. Now, normally you're not going to find 3 apples to trigger all 4 of your dares. However, if you have a secret garden which spreads fruit throughout your house, you are very likely to see multiple apples, but it does rely on the secret garden key, which you don't always see. Now we start to get into some riskier ones, like every time you draft an archive floor plan. Archives loves to show up on day one, and this is a pretty achievable one, but you do have to be really careful because obviously the archive rooms could totally kill your pathways that you're trying to get to room 46. And rooms really matter on day one. Seeing your pool into your pump room, getting a great haul. These are all things that can be important, so you don't necessarily want to be burning free slots every now and then. Still, if you have to rely on it, you have to rely on it. Each time you find some trash while digging is pretty good. It is RNG dependent and it does require a shovel, but green rooms and shovels are already good. If you're lucky enough to get a veranda, I would say that 2 gem cost is absolutely worth it. I usually profit items and much more, and it makes my days really great. I'm pretty sure that the increased luck from veranda only affects item spawns as well, so no need to worry about improving your dig spots and making it so you don't find trash. The last of the tougher but reasonable ones are the next 3 times you unlock and open a chest. The awkward thing about this experiment is that you want to open every chest that you see on day one because you're very likely to profit resources even if it costs you a key. That sounds pretty great until you realize, ooh, I've already opened up a few chests before seeing this dare. So if it's possible, it's nice to hold out on your chests, but again, the step count really matters, the resource count really matters, so all in all, it can be kind of awkward, but it can also be an incredibly powerful lab experiment that rewards you for doing what you want to be doing. Now we get to the really iffy ones, and at the top of this list is whenever you draft a shop room. The reason why this one is iffy is because it's going to cost you a minimum of 3 gems. Every single shop in this game that you can reasonably get on day one is going to cost you a gem. Commissary, kitchen, and aquarium. Don't get me wrong, all of these can be solid, but your gem count really matters on day one, and not all of these are strictly necessary for a winning day. In fact, aquarium can be really awkward because there's a dare that requires you to buy something in every shop you draft. Having this with aquarium will instantly kill you. That's why I didn't bring it up with the bedrooms, although that is a great use for that lab experiment as well. And if you've drafted even one of these shops before seeing this dare, well, you can kiss it goodbye. Next is the drawing room floor plan. This one is really interesting because you don't actually have to draft it, you only have to see it in your pool. And the final 4, in my opinion, are all just impossible. You're never drafting hallways from other hallways enough to trigger it 3 times. Spending 2 or more gems, I wish. Whenever you draft a red room, lose 5 steps, you are not gonna have the steps you need to win, and immediately is just obviously not possible. Chatters love to ask me, don't you think you should wait until you've solved your room 46 before you start doing your lab experiments? And that sounds really great on paper, but if you look at the list I just gave you, there's really only 2 where that's even remotely feasible. Eating apples once you've got a secret garden, yeah, maybe you could hold out on eating them until the end of the day. And digging up trash from dig spots, yes, that's possible, but again, these are things that are very tricky because your step count just matters so much. Asking to have so many steps that you can backtrack throughout the mansion once again is kind of a tall ask. I guess the secret garden one is more likely since you're kind of foraging around for food anyway. So if you're lucky enough to have that option, I say go for it because yeah, it would be really great to have all your dares at the end of the day. Many dares that are very difficult become a lot more feasible, like entering a room more than 3 times, never riding an elevator. These don't care about your progress you've made before you pick up the dare, they only care about what happens afterward. But realistically speaking, we are just gonna have to roll these dares and do the best we can, and that is why this challenge is so frustrating. So what exactly makes this harder than day 1 curse mode? Well, it really comes down to time and resets. In day 1 curse mode, your pathway to victory is so incredibly narrow that it's very obvious to you early on when you need to reset a day. I've got a whole video on this very subject if you're curious. Granted, day 1 dare mode is more fun because you are actually playing a lot of games of blueprints. You're not just like hard resetting within 5 minutes of each day, but that also comes with the real depression with everything I've said earlier. Having everything but a lab, having everything but the dare, having everything but steps. There are so many factors that have to line up just right for you to actually win this game. Speaking of resets, let's talk about your first dare. There is a massive list of potential dares, but not all of them are possible as your starting one, and it's definitely not worth playing around your unknown slots. Sure, you might add a dare that says open an empty box in every parlor you draft, but that doesn't mean you should avoid the parlor. My best advice is to always shoot for broke because you need every inch of advantage you can get, and you can always just reset. So the easiest starting dares are these 5. Never exit the house from the entrance hall. So easy, you're always going for the garage. Always pick the first floor plan when drafting in the entrance hall. Sure, you might have a janky layout and it might lead to a short day, but you can always reset, and sometimes it doesn't. It's great to not have to think about the stair ever again. Open each locked trunk. Well, you're already going to be doing that, though you do have to be careful because there is a lab experiment that involves opening locked trunks. Sometimes you need to care about it, sometimes you don't. That's really up to you. Draft 6 different colors of rooms. That's so easy with a big day like day 1. You're going to be filling it out as much as possible, and you can always draft an aquarium if you're nervous. And then finally, make 1 purchase or trade in each shop you draft. That one can be tricky because the aquarium I just mentioned will instantly kill you, but for the most part, you don't have to draft shops, and you can always play around exactly 1 good item from them. Then there's this batch of dares that I think are all possible if you're not streaming and chatting and multitasking and have a small brain like I do. Leave the Mount Holly blueprint on the entrance hall table. Never draft all 5 rooms in a rank. Never draft from a room facing south. Always have at least 20 steps. Never eat fruit again. And draft the most expensive floor plan you can whenever you have 3 or more gems. Again, some of these are worse than others, but they will need your full attention. A bad downside of running dare mode all the time is that you get your dares mixed up. I had post-it notes that I'd slap on my monitors, and I'd still die to dare sometimes, particularly the 3 gem dare. That one, holy cow, it's just the funniest thing. I seriously always lose to it. I think our die count is at least over 80 different times. If I can get a gem alert in the comments to know that you know, that would be amazing. This one is so obnoxious because it's the only conditional dare, meaning sometimes it's live and sometimes it isn't. Just keep your eyes on your gem count and don't be afraid to leave them in rooms to pick up later. It shouldn't be that tough of a dare overall, but again, I have a small brain. Every other dare dare, just impossible. Don't worry about them. I should also say at one point I got a blank dare, which I believe came from a bunk bed trigger. I'm not entirely sure if this dare is truly blank or if it just looks blank and there's actually a dare behind it. If you know any information about this glitch in the comments, I would love to know. The day one dare approach is obviously great for speedrunning. However, if you are just a speedrunner, I would listen to Blackened, who is currently the #1 champ in most categories of glitchless blueprints. His current approach is not trying to beat dare mode in one day, but rather calling it a day 3 times and instantly going to day 4. That way you've already got your dares set up. You know if your dares are gonna be feasible. Remember, so many of them are borderline impossible, and it alleviates the pressure to find the laboratory and trigger the experiment a bunch of times. In theory, this does seem much better than day 1 dare mode, especially for your time, but what can I say? I am a masochist. I promised you guys that's what I would do. So let's take a look at this ridiculous winning run. It was easily my most stressful game of blueprints ever. Okay, so we start things off very strong with my beloved veranda, and then not long after that, we get a pretty early foundation. Both of these are rare and uncommon rooms that signal a very good start. Normally, the east side gets locked up very quickly. I aim for a utility closet, and then I want to backtrack right away to conserve steps as we push to the west side for the garage. But in this case, I'm actually able to snake around and connect to the west side while also leaving some draftable rooms in the early ranks. Again, this is not normal. Another great thing we had was our commissary letting us buy gems. This is a luck-based thing, and it's perhaps the best thing you can ask for. 3 coins are trivial, and every single gem matters. We also managed to get an early detector shovel contraption. Honestly, this one is kind of risky because it decreases your chance of digging trash if we need that for our lab experiment. It also removes your chance of digging up turnips, which are frankly pretty huge for steps in day 1, but detector shovel provides so many resources that I went for it anyway. Where this run starts getting stressful is with the boiler room. It's pretty late in the ranks. I don't have a laboratory yet, so I'm hopeful that I can draft it by sending power out. I also have not drafted pool yet, so pump room is out, and I don't have an easy antechamber option. Gym versus weight room versus archives right here is a very tough call. There's a part of me that wants to go for gym and try to get those running shoes, but I'm looking at the map. There's just not that many draftable spots open, so I eventually go for archives. I do want to get that weight room because it's very likely power hammer is my best option, but I figure if I draft the weight room just a little bit later, I'll save some steps. Funny enough, I drafted right away, so yeah, I guess I saved exactly 1 step. So we do have a sledgehammer and a broken lever. We just need the battery pack for the power hammer, but the battery pack is pretty tricky. The lab could have it, but we drafted in. No luck there. And speaking of bad luck, the only experiment we can do is the bedroom one. We've drafted just about every bedroom already, including aquarium and even her ladyship's chamber. I do some math. The only feasible ones left are bunk bed and maid's chamber, which is a win, but holy cow, we don't have a lot of space here. We do the insanely big brain play of drafting a powered furnace to guarantee the maid's chambers. We've already drafted most of the red rooms anyway, and even the dark room that we get could spawn a battery if we have the steps to turn the lights on. Why a powered dark room is still dark will always bother me. But that's the scary issue here. Do we have the steps? I do have a 30-step dining hall ready to go. I did draft a nursery way earlier, but we don't have running shoes. We don't have a sleeping mask. That means that our weight room steps that are cut in half are quite low. And now it gets ultra stressful because there's actually a lot of options here. We have exactly 1 slot that a secret garden could fill, which would get us the steps we need and alleviate some of the antechamber pressure. The detector shovel does make it ever so slightly more likely to dig up a secret garden key. Also, we could just forget about the tomb and instead draft the trading post. That can lock in the battery pack, and since we have foundation and we did end up getting a pump room, that's another win. It sounds good, but the issue here again is steps. You need basement key to enter from both the foundation and the fountain, meaning we'd have to go outside, trade for battery pack, come all the way back to the antechamber, then use the key, go back to the fountain, come back inside. You know, it's a whole bunch of steps here. After a long debate, I went for the safest option, which is tomb, and a very scary tomb considering we have archives live. I do have to use a reroll, but we do snag it and we go right into it. And at this point, I have the smallest brain ever, or I'm just stressing over every little detail because I fully forget that we can open up the north lever here and get ready to go. Now I'm really stressed because I think if that kills me based off the steps that I just wasted, that I am going to probably kill myself. But as a great stroke of good luck, our other 2 dares are so easy. Opening up every locked trunk, which we've already done, and never drafting a new den. Again, the den we've already drafted does not count against us here. And here's where things get hysterical. The final room that I drafted in these early ranks was an upgraded hallway closet that did end up mattering because we found a sleeping mask inside of there. And at this point, I'm giddy beyond belief. We do end up going all the way back to the dark room. The battery pack is there. Keep in mind, this could be a lot of other things. It could be a lockpit kit, or it could be a key or a gem, but no, we got the battery pack we needed. And just for a bit of BM, we also draft a kitchen with a red soup that gives us a million steps. We enter room 46, and oh my gosh, the catharsis is absolutely out of this freaking world. When this run gets submitted, I'll end up being the 4th place dare mode person, which I am totally okay with. I don't care that I could have shaved off easily 15 minutes if I weren't hemming and hawing, fidgeting over every little decision. I'm just glad to be done with this freaking challenge. And before we end things, I'd also like to give a shameless plug here. By the time you watch this video, I will have started my fire fundraiser, and I will be on the road. Literally, I am walking 700 miles throughout California on foot to raise money and awareness for my home of Altadena. This was the city that I grew up in before the January fires burned down my home, my possessions, everything I had in it. I personally feel very connected to this cause, but don't worry, I've still got a lot of YouTube videos and posts that are scheduled to go, so it's not like this channel is going anywhere. But if you want to keep up to date with it, I've got a second channel that I'll link down below. I've also got a link to the GoFundMe page if you're so inclined, but don't worry too much about that. The biggest thing you can do is just share the word with your friends, your family, anyone else. I'm a one-man show when it comes to PR, so every little bit goes such a long way. And again, I bring this up not just to be a shameless plug, but if you're wondering when our next Blueprint stream is going to be, our next challenge run or whatever the heck, it's going to take me at least 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, who knows. Do let us know in the comments, what would you like to see next? I'll have tons and tons of time on the road to brainstorm, so I'd love to know what you think too. Thanks for watching, Scouts. I hope you have an excellent day. Thanks for caring for our community, and I'll see you at the next video.